My administration will find each and every one of those who contributed to this atrocity and to other political violence, including the organizations that fund it and support it, as well as those who go after our judges, law enforcement officials, and everyone else who brings order to our country.
That was President Donald Trump last night promising what reporter Ken Klippenstein has described as a counterterrorism style response to the assassination of political activist Charlie Kirk. Now here's more of what the president had to say.
It's a long past time for all Americans and the media to confront the fact that violence and murder are the tragic consequence of demonizing those with whom you disagree day after day, year after year, in the most hateful and despicable way possible. For years, those on the radical left have compared wonderful Americans like Charlie to Nazis and the world's worst mass murderers and criminals. This kind of rhetoric is directly responsible for the terrorism that we're seeing in our country today, and it must stop right now. From the attack on my life in Butler, Pennsylvania last year, which killed a husband and father, to the attacks on ICE agents, to the vicious murder of a healthcare executive in the streets of New York, to the shooting of House Majority Leader Steve Scalise and 3 others, radical left political violence has hurt too many innocent people and taken too many lives.
Just want to note that political violence has unfortunately harmed people on both sides of the political aisle, and we can get into details about that. But I also want to note that the political ideology of the would-be assassin from Butler, Pennsylvania is not clear. Okay, so you can claim that he's on the left, but he was a registered Republican. Anyway, whatever. The most frustrating thing about this is the rhetoric used on both sides of the political aisle can get fiery. To pretend like that fiery rhetoric only exists on the left is a bit ridiculous. The other thing that's a bit ridiculous is, Trump kind of, his political rhetoric kind of ebbs and flows. So you'll hear him say things that I believe, as president of the United States, is incredibly responsible at a time when a leader should be trying to cool tensions and get the temperature down a little bit. But then he comes out and says things that seem to be a little more, I guess, calm. So for instance, it's worth noting that this morning, Trump kind of changed his tone and was preaching unity in a private message to CNBC's Joe Kernen. So let's take a quick look at that.
He's devastated about Charlie Kirk and said that what a guy, what a great individual. And he said he helped him greatly in the last election and thinks that Charlie Kirk could have been president someday. He was such a talented guy. Then he went on to say the country will heal. He's focused on what he has been focused on, and he says, I'm focused on winning. If the country wins, and if I do everything I can to help the country win, that we're all going to be able to come together again.
It would be nice to hear that message directly from the president's mouth, but that message was relayed by a friend of his. And this morning, actually later today, Trump changed his tone yet again. Here we are.
Not really. I'm really concerned for our country. We have a great country. We have a radical left group of lunatics out there, just absolute lunatics, and we're going to get that problem solved. I'm only concerned for the country.
So Cenk, there's a lot of commentary on the right about the left, the radical left. They're already being blamed, even though we don't have a suspect apprehended, even though we don't have a clear motive. And I want to repeat, it is not far-fetched for the shooter to be left-wing. However, we don't know yet. And on top of that, Charlie Kirk was not someone who was on the far, far right, okay? In fact, he had a pretty significant group of haters who were on the right of him, who didn't like him and would harass him at public events. So I don't know who the shooter is. No one knows who the shooter is. No one knows what the motive is. But it doesn't help to have the president, left, which is, inspiring some folks, some public figures on the right to declare that we're at war, that they're at war with the left, right? That they want to attack the left. And I don't know, the rhetoric I'm hearing is really scary. But what are your thoughts about this?
Yeah, so look, guys, we can do whataboutisms all day long. I'm just gonna say that list a couple from both sides so you know it's absurd to think that it's only one side, right? So the former lieutenant governor of North Carolina, who was a Republican, ran for governor of North Carolina, said sometimes you just have to kill people. There was the Democratic legislators shot in Minnesota just a couple of weeks ago. There was the 4 Democratic legislators shot at in New Mexico a couple of years ago. There was the Paul Pelosi attack. There's all the manifesto shooters. On the other side, there's the guy who shot Steve Scalise. There's this now. There was a couple of shots at Trump, obviously, right? So, okay, I got it. There's way too much violence from both sides. So the answer to that isn't, it's the left's fault, it's the right's fault. The answer to that is everybody bring it down. We have to be a united country. If we just, so look, the great irony of the people that are now saying it was the left's rhetoric that's at fault. So it's the entire left and we have to go get them. Even if that were true, look at what you're saying. You're making the same mistake that you're charging them of making by saying it's all of them, we have to get them, etc. So whereas here on the Young Turks, we've now said it, I don't know, hundreds of times, thousands of times, where when there's a shooter or somebody crazy that says something nuts, etc., they do not represent all Trump voters if they're on the right, and they don't represent all Biden, Kamala Harris, etc. voters if they're on the left. So that should be obvious, but oftentimes these politicians and media figures obfuscate that. They don't want that to be obvious to you. They go, that guy, that this crazy lunatic talking about, oh, it's so great that they shot Charlie. That's it, that's the entire left. Come on, guys. I mean, there's over 70 million Democratic voters. Most of them live in like rural areas, suburbs, etc. Their families, they're not rando 13-year-olds on Twitter who are saying crazy, stupid stuff. I hate scams, especially the ones that target seniors, and Medicare's chock full of them. Between commission-hungry brokers and thousands of confusing plan options, most seniors aren't on the best plan for them. That's why I partner with Chapter. They're fully independent and they work for you, not the insurance companies. That's really important. They can review all your options in under 20 minutes, and the average senior they help saves over $1,100 a year. And the best part of it is, it doesn't cost you a thing. So if you're turning 65, call the number on the screen to connect with a Chapter advisor today. That should be obvious to all of us, but I don't think it's even close to obvious. And so, as you're going to give us more examples here, Anna, I want you to keep in mind as you're watching this. Does this look like it's people who are trying to be responsible? In fact, sorry, Anna, let me read one thing from one of our members, because I think it's a really good point. Liberty Isn't Free is a member on TYT.com, and they wrote in, I think George W. Bush is a war criminal, but the one thing I'll always give him credit for is that he united us after 9/11. Trump had an opportunity to do the same yesterday and chose not to do that. He wants us hating each other and fighting each other because it will take all eyes off him. We cannot let that happen. So whether you're super mad at Trump or you're super mad at the left, either way, you're going in the wrong direction. So like, I mean today, right? You disagree on policy, you hate the left-wing policy, you hate the right-wing policy, no problem. Let's have policy fights. For God's sake, let's go back to policy fights, right? But when you're talking about it's all their fault and it's all their fault, it's not at all helpful. Every time you ring the bell below, an angel gets his wings. Totally not true, but it does keep you updated on our live shows.